Our next witness is Mr. Thomas Lee. Mr. Lee is International President of the American Federation of Musicians of the United States and Canada. Mr. Lee has served as an officer of AFM since 1991 and was recently re-elected to his third term as AFM's president. Prior to his retirement, Mr. Lee was a member of the United States Marine Band for 24 years. As the pianist for the President's Own Marine Band, he worked closely with 6 presidents, providing musical support several times weekly for state dinners, receptions, and other official occasions. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and Ranking Member Chabot and other members of the committee. I appreciate very much your calling this hearing for us to have an opportunity to state our feelings about the issue. As you said, I'm a professional musician, International President of the American Federation of Musicians of the United States and Canada, representing more than 90,000 professional musicians. And I'm pleased to have this opportunity to speak with you today about musicians and singers. The AFM is very supportive of the webcasting industry, especially small, non-commercial webcasters, and the AFM was very supportive when the webcasters requested that a CRB be created, which in fact would give everyone a fair and equal opportunity to place their issues before the CRB, and I believe the webcasters did suggest that this would be an equitable way for everyone to come to a conclusion upon what a proper royalty would be. But it's important to realize that webcasters are not the only small businesses affected by royalty rates set by the Copyright Royalty Board last March. Recording musicians and vocalists are themselves entrepreneurs and small business people who rely on small income streams, including performance royalties, in order to make ends meet. I've submitted my written testimony, and that describes my background as well, but I do want to say, for Mr. Chabot, you also have another person from Cincinnati sitting here. I went to the College Conservatory of Music of the University of Cincinnati, and a small-town St. Paris, Ohio boy, so we got another Buckeye in the room. The digital performance right has worked in the way that my folks and my musicians envisioned in the early 90s. It's created a small but important new income stream for thousands of musicians and vocalists who count on the accumulation of many such modest revenue streams in order to survive and continue to make music. Some think of recording performers as a small and select group of rich celebrities living a glamorous life and whose concerns have nothing in common with those ordinary citizens. And I wish music was all wealth and glamour, but it is not. Sure, some musicians become megastars and platinum sellers. That's great, and I wish that kind of success were possible for every talented musician, but world fame and vast fortune are very much the exception rather than the rule. The fact is that all but a minuscule percentage of musicians earn only very modest sums for their creative work. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that in 2004, the median hourly earnings of musicians and vocalists was $17.85. No annual earning figures are available, according to the Bureau, because, as it reports, it is extremely rare for musicians and vocalists to have guaranteed employment that exceeds 3 to 6 months. In fact, within the profession, we consider a performer to be a great success if he or she can earn a living from music without keeping a day job. And I'm going to come back to that day job. Most successful recording artists never become household names. They record terrific performances, they make a living at music, and they have loyal fans, but they never become rich. And they must work incredibly hard to combine incomes from live performances, recording sales, licensed recordings to TV and movies, merchandising, songwriting, session recording, producing other artists, and any business opportunity they can muster in order to earn a living. I'm honored to be on this panel before you today with exactly such an ordinary, and I use that term advisedly, artist, who was Kathy Fink, a very hard-working artist. There are other recording artists whose names mostly remain unknown, but who are vital to the creative success of countless sound recordings. Session performers contribute critical interpretive elements, intros, fills, chords changes, solos, tempo, and rhythm that bring the notes and the lyric on a page to life in a unique recorded performance. A songwriter can write the song and put the notes on the page, but until you put the drummer, the guitar player, the keyboard player, and the bass player together, you will not have a piece of music that somebody will want to listen to. The AFM is fortunate to have as its vice president Harold Bradley, the most recorded guitarist in history, Country Music Hall of Fame inductee, and one of the legendary Nashville A-team session musicians. You may never have heard of Harold's name, but you've definitely heard him play bass on Patsy Cline's recording of Crazy, Roy Orbison's recording of Oh Pretty Woman and Crying, and Johnny Horton's The Battle of New Orleans, and 30,000 other songs that he's been performing on. He's no exaggeration to say internet radio and other music services broadcast great performances by tens of thousands of session musicians and vocalists. In testimony before the CRB, Harold explained how session players contribute to recordings, using examples of that session that recorded Patsy Cline's Crazy. I have submitted Harold's testimony for your review because I think it's critical to understanding the exact process of recording. It would be great if a little talent or a lot were enough to enable musicians to make this kind of contribution, but it isn't. As the Bureau of Labor Statistics has said, musicians need extensive and prolonged training and practice to acquire the necessary skills, knowledge, and ability to interpret music at a professional level. As AFM president, I'm extremely proud of all the work that has been done in support of my 90,000 members to improve the economic life of recording musicians. Recordings made under the AFM Sound Recording Labor Agreement pay decent scale and pension. In addition, they result in further payments based on industry sales. Finally, musicians receive additional payments when their recordings get used in movies or other media. This is a good system, but it does not result in riches, only in modest middle-class income for musicians who work under it regularly. It's important to note that practically no session musician actually has a regular job from which he or she can count on receiving an annual income. Session work, like most musicians' employment, is intermittent even at the best of times. When hard times hit the record industry, total wage scale and pension earnings decrease simply because there are fewer sessions. The Bureau of Labor Statistics notes that due to the intermittent employment in the music industry, few musicians and vocalists have the kind of benefits other Americans take for granted, like unemployment compensation and paid vacations and sick leave. And I see that I'm just about out of time, so I'd like to conclude just with one closing remark. One of the most disturbing things I have read in the Bureau of Labor Statistics report is the following statement: talent alone is no guarantee of success. Many people start out to become musicians or singers, but leave the profession because they find work difficult, the discipline demanding, and the long periods of intermittent employment unendurable. And I would have to say that we probably have, if I may be so bold to say, Congressman Paul Hodes and Congressman Colin Peterson, who are very well-known musicians in our own industry, who have bands here and play on Capitol Hill. And would it not be that they couldn't make a decent living, they probably wouldn't have to be moonlighting as members of Congress in order to sell out. I will say this: we understand the plight of the small webcasters, and I think Sound Exchange is working very hard to deal with the matters the small webcasters have brought to us. And I think that can be worked out if we're given the proper amount of time. Thank you.